Okay. Yeah. What do you think, guys? Good? Sure. Okay. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mission statement is grounded by our history as one of the oldest publicly supported schools in Wisconsin. Mineral Point School District is the heart of a small community, educates and inspires our students for a bright future in a big world. Okay, call meeting to order. Did you roll call?
Bush,
Here.
Dunn,
Yes, here.
Harris,
Here.
Eisner,
Here.
Netka,
Here.
Johnston, Skelding.
Here. And now we'll go into recognitions.
So we have two board members who are leaving us, Gary Sullivan and Sarah Seabrud. We have a tile that usually gets presented to staff and board members on their departure. The individual that creates those tiles is a little bit busy right now, battling some cancer, but we will get those taken care of and get those presented to the two individuals. But again, just an opportunity to thank Gary Sullivan and Sarah Seabrud for their service to the board and the community of Mineral Point. So congratulations and thank you. Next solo ensemble, had several students from the Mineral Point School District and state solo ensemble. Those receiving a first place, you can see the list: Jenna Burns in alto solo and music theater solo, Jasmine Cool for brass, clarinet solo, musical theater solo, and soprano solo, Marcus Cool in music theater solo, Josie Dunn oboe solo, Libby Dunn in a flute solo. I don't know how Libby and Josie got to work together in a woodwind duet, but there must have been some arm twisting. And then Libby Dunn, Graceland Foster, and Abby Webb in a flute trio, Brock Ellingson, baritone bass solo, Ella Fox, music theater, Matthew Gannon in timpani solo, Callie Pierce for music theater, soprano, trumpet solo, and then Abel Logue and Tyler Nordstrom joined Callie Pierce for a trumpet trio, and Elliot Webb in a tuba solo. Second place, ratings, Bryce Ackerman, an alto saxophone solo, Oliver Benson, and a baritone sax solo, Juliana Cool, alto solo, Libby Dunn, soprano solo, Graceland Foster, flute solo, Ella Fox, soprano solo, Stella Janetka, soprano solo, and Abby Webb, an alto, flute solo, and flute solo. Additionally, Callie Pierce earned exemplary performance recognition for her trumpet solo, Jenna Burns in the alto solo, Jasmine Cool for her bass clarinet solo. They were also nominated for the prestigious award this time. So an outstanding performance by our music department this spring. So congratulations. Our Crystal Apple recipient is in the audience. Would you like to say a few words about how it all played out for you?
Well, it was a complete surprise and a big honor. This is the best job in the world, and I've loved every bit of it. I had one student that contacted me about a month ago when she found out that I found that I had won the award, and he said, I remember coming to school one day, and I was all upset because my mom would braid my hair. You braided my hair. And after that, my day was perfect. And I just thought, you have to have these connections with these kids. If their hair isn't braided, they need their hair braided, braid their hair. Take care of these kids like they're your own. And every student I've had, I've loved. I get contacted by many of them even yet. It's quite an honor. My daughters came. I saw one daughter and I thought, oh no.
Bad news, right?
Yeah, they all came coming in really fast. And I was super shocked when cameras, and I was like starstruck. I didn't know what to say, but I felt really good about it. It was very nice.
So congratulations to Deb Mall, a Crystal Apple Award winner.
anybody wants to come and rub it.
Thanks, Deb. Another outstanding award. Ms. Stahl, as the athletic director, would you like to shed a little light on our WIA Scholar Athlete?
Sure. Ella Chambers, three-sport athlete, had her award ceremony May 1st in Stevens Point. 4.0 GPA. In order to be eligible for the award, you have to have a minimum GPA of 3.5. You have to letter in at least different sports. Ella had multiple letters and also 4.0. Also, the tournament accomplishments that she was a part of, and especially in girls basketball, certainly helped. And she earned it, and very proud of her for this accomplishment.
Well, congratulations to Ella Chambers, our WIA Scholar Athlete. Is she the third or fourth?
Fourth.
So in all the years of Mineral Point and the WI, Ella's the fourth WI Scholar Athlete for Mineral Point. So, one of the things the claim always comes in, all we care about are sports and our sports teams. We get recognized for our sports teams. But those sports teams also come with some academic awards attached to them. So not only are they athletes, they're student athletes. They are in the classroom first. And we've talked about how impressive this is. Our volleyball team received academic all-state honors. See in some of the all academic awards given, you have to have a team average of at least a 3.4. Our girls crushed it with a 3.81. And this is everybody, not just your starting lineup. This is everybody that's on the varsity team. So they take all those GPAs at the average. So ours was a 3.81. So again, just an outstanding academic achievement for all these girls, even though they are putting in a lot of extra time somewhere else outside the classroom. So a very deserved award by our volleyball all academic all state team. So congratulations. Our FFA team, a livestock judging team, champions. So they will be competing next fall in Indianapolis at the National FFA contest. You see here, Cameron Patterson is in attendance. Cameron, would you love to talk about this, or would you like me to just do it for you? Do you want to say a few words about it?
Not really. Pretty fun. We got to skip the day of school.
That's the most important part. So you have Luke Schubert, Ellie Robinson, Cam, and Emma Steffes. Okay, and just a little throwback in time. These guys were destined for championship because that's the same exact team. How many years ago would you say that is, Cam? At least 5 years ago, this team was champions. You can see all with the blue ribbon there in livestock judging. And now you fast forward and now they're going to go compete at the national convention next fall. So congratulations to the livestock judging team from Mineral Point. And last but not least, Coach Fiedler, would you like to speak to the wrestling academic team?
So we also had our academic all-state teams come out about a week or two ago. Very proud that we're able to say that we have 8 on the academic all-state team. One of the few times, the wrestlers didn't listen to me and decided to do what I didn't do in the classroom when I was in high school. So I appreciate these kiddos. Our first team guys were Rowan Carey and Lucas Sullivan and Kylie Rule. Second team was Trapper Nosker and Taryn Riley, and honorable mention was Bo Hansen, Cade Rule, and Carson Kroll. Again, it's awesome to not only see these young men and women perform on the mat, but also in the classroom, and they continue to do that day in and day out. And, I'm proud to be able to coach these kids on a daily basis. So,
And these guys also need at least a 3.5 or higher to be eligible for something like this. So again, outstanding job on the mat, outstanding job in the classroom. Great student leaders for us, good role models for a lot of kids in the building from preschool on up through the senior year. So congratulations to our wrestlers.
I just want to say, what a nice thing of recognition is just looking through here. We had outgoing board members, we have the arts, we have a teacher. I mean, it really is athletics, academics. It's really a nice, I don't know that we could have a nicer mix of recognitions tonight. So I just wanted to notice that today and wanted to comment on it.
Okay, next we will have election of officers. I'll just read the intro here. Nominations will be accepted and officers elected in the following order: president, vice president, clerk, and treasurer. Each officer shall serve a term of 1 year. Balloting for any of the 4 above mentioned officers shall continue until a clear majority is received. So, Mitch, do you want to talk more about the process, or do you want me to try to talk through it and you can fill in the gaps?
Why don't you go ahead?
Okay. It's my understanding that for each officer, we take nominations until there's no more nominations or someone makes a motion to close nominations. And does that need a second and
Yes.
a vote on that? Okay. And then once the nominations are closed, and if there's more than one nominee for that officer, then we do a silent ballot. And we write it down and vote and turn it into you. Okay. And then we will move on to the next officer
Correct.
until we're all done.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And my understanding that if you're nominated, you don't have to accept the nomination. So if you are nominated, I'll just make sure you accept the nomination for the office. Okay. So we'll take nominations for president.
I nominate Dr. Dunn for school board president for the upcoming year.
Second. Any other nominations?
Make a motion to close the nominations.
Motion to close nominations. I'll second. All those in favor of closing nominations, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, anyone opposed? Okay. All right, thank you, everybody. Next is vice president. Any nominations for vice president?
I nominate Joni Heisner, vice president.
Any other nominations or a motion to close nominations? Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Sorry, Joan, I forgot to ask if you accept the nomination.
I accept.
Oh, too late, she's already.
Okay. Next is clerk. The nomination for clerk.
I nominate Will Harris.
I would second that nomination.
Do we need a second nominations to happen?
Oh,
I'm just for point of order. The nomination need a second for it to be official?
No, it does not.
Is that right, Andy? I don't think it. Just needs a nomination.
Right, and the individual can decide whether to decline, accept or decline.
Either way, we got a second.
Oh, we did for the prior two.
We did. I just didn't know if it was necessary or not.
we're being thorough.
Okay.
Make a motion to close nominations.
I'll second that. Bruce Skelding. All in favor of closing nominations for clerk, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anyone opposed? Okay, sorry, you accept the nomination.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay, last is nomination for treasurer. Member Skelding is the current treasurer. in case you
Make a nominate member Skelding for treasurer.
didn't know. Okay.
Oh, we're not seconding. I would have seconded it. So.
Any other nominations? Accept the nomination. Make a motion to close
I
nominations.
move to close nominations.
All in favor of closing nominations for treasurer, say aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. Right, next we'll go to appointment of secretary. The board will appoint a secretary each year. The secretary is an employee of the district and will not be a member of the board. So Angie is our faithful secretary. We got a nomination for secretary.
Nominate. Continue.
Okay, now, this is a little different as far as appointing secretary. Is this a nomination with a second? Or do we also close nominations for?
Yeah, I would say unless somebody on the board has a burning desire to fill that role, then you would appoint Angie as that
Okay,
secretary.
would we move to close nominations then? Okay. So,
I move that we close nominations.
okay. Second to that? Great. Did you accept the nomination as for the?
Please.
Don't ask.
Okay, all in favor of closing nominations, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Andy. All right, we'll go to establishment of board meeting dates and times. The board will establish both the meeting dates and times for future regularly scheduled board meetings. Currently, the board meets the second Monday of the month at 6:30. And you guys all have a list of the currently proposed dates. And you wanted to make a comment about December 12th?
December 12th is also the holiday concert, middle school, high school holiday concert. It was this last year. And we simply moved the meeting time up earlier that evening to, I believe it was 5. So I would ask that as you look at that, you approve the board meetings at the normal time of 6:30, but on the December 12th, I would ask that you look to make that a 5 o'clock meeting. Then anybody that would like to can go down the hallway and attend the holiday concert.
I remember there was some consternation about being able to squeeze in that whole agenda. Last time we did that, were we able to successfully do that, or did we have to split that into 2 meetings? That's what I thought.
COVID was on
It
the
was
agenda.
COVID related. Agenda like that,
Major
yeah.
agenda item. Okay, so do I need a motion to approve these dates in a second? Is that right?
Yeah, to set these dates and the times recommended. So the December 12th would be a recommended 5 o'clock start. Otherwise, it's a 6:30.
Yes, it is. Well, 6 o'clock.
Probably a good idea,
Does
if everybody's okay with that.
anybody work out of town that would struggle to be back by 6?
I guess I don't work.
How does does that sit well for you, Mitch, in terms of like just meeting prep time, and Angie, how's that work?
Half hour earlier. Can we set an end? Can we set an end?
Okay,
So you need a motion and a second and then vote on that for 6 o'clock.
any other revisions or suggested revisions? I guess I'll just say that these dates are not completely set in stone, like if something comes up mid-year, we could potentially reschedule it, but we do like to do the second Monday, just because Mondays work really well for the school schedule, and the second Monday works really well for paying our bills
Correct.
every month. Okay, so I'll take a motion to accept the board meeting dates, all starting at 6 p.m., except for December 12th, starting at 5 p.m.
I'll make a motion to accept the proposed dates, but to start the meeting at 6 p.m., except for December 12th, 5 p.m.
Second.
Any discussion about it? All in favor? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, anyone opposed? Okay.
And along with your board meeting dates, I've asked Dr. Nutter
Okay.
to speak to the board.
So next, since we're on topic of board meetings, we're going to talk about maybe doing some board development work session meetings between now and the beginning of next school year. And we've invited Jamie Nutter, who works with CISA 3 and would help facilitate those meetings for us. So you want to just talk about what that would mean? And
Sure, man, come around front so everybody don't have to turn their head.
Absolutely.
So, so talking with Dr. Dunn and Mr. Wainwright, I've facilitated a lot of board goal priority settings with several of your school boards across CISA 3. And it doesn't change the focus per se of the day-to-day that administrators, the dozens of things that they're required to do have to continue to happen. But what it does do is it gives you an opportunity for some dialogue, and it allows Mr. Wainwright not to facilitate a meeting as your administrator, but to sit down as part of the team and make sure that you're all on the same page. And so in addition to everything that happens each month, this allows for you to choose 2 to 3 priorities, 2 to 3 themes that you're going to focus on. Some of our districts, for example, their top priority as of late has been recruiting and retention. We know that we have to do things differently in this day and age because of shortages. Social emotional learning supports. Building and grounds. There's just depending on the uniqueness of the district, what's burning and what's priorities for each of those boards. It has been a little bit different. In some of those cases, it's priorities by the board that works in concert with the administrators. So you develop the theme and the guardrails, and then how that actually gets carried out gets kicked back to the administrative team. They bring some priorities back for you to consider for approval when it's some of the work that they all do. So there's a couple of different approaches to that. One is it's a 2.5 day retreat, and it's about 18 hours. After about 6 hours per day, people are pretty tapped out, right? That's a long time. But what I'm finding, that's not the most popular option, because typically people who serve on school boards are busy people and they don't have 3 6-hour days to commit to something like that. Plus, it's the last thing they want to do on a Saturday morning or a Wednesday night, and they can't get away during the day. So what we've been doing when we work with districts is we start with one 90-minute session, and that tends to be a strength, weakness, opportunities, SWOT analysis activity where we talk about a variety of priorities. And that gives each of you, how the process goes is each of you has an opportunity to, I present the question, and then you write, and then each of you share, and then we record your responses. Because what tends to happen on a lot of boards, there are individuals who have great ideas, but they don't always feel comfortable sharing it when they have that opportunity. And so by taking that time to reflect and write and share, everybody's idea gets brought out. And then in that initial meeting, we take infinity of ideas and narrow it down to 10. Then we stop there. And the reason we stop there is because there's a variety of influences that could be why you're thinking something's a priority on that day. It could be a phone call from a parent right before the board meeting. It could be something that's happening on the world news. But by taking a look at that list, taking some time to reflect on it, come back and say, you know what, this is really important for our community at this time, for our students at this time. And then we take that list of 10, we narrow it down to 2 to 3. You vote on 5, but you get it down to 2 to 3. And then we spend time, once we get it narrowed down to that 2 to 3, then the work starts. Then we start having real in-depth conversations. So that after that initial 90 minutes that we talked about from infinity down to 10, then we go an hour before each meeting until we get done with the process. And that usually takes about 6 or 7 months. And it gives you each time in between each of those meetings to reflect on what you think is really important. And then it also gives you a deadline. I just heard you say, hey, can we start this at 6? That means we'd have to start this at 5, but then there's a definite end time of 6. It could be other days. My time is, I can make it work as long as I'm not already committed to another district at that time. So I don't know if you have any questions, but that's basically the outline. But it's been pretty awesome to be able to work. I think I've worked now with 14 districts throughout Southwest Wisconsin, and each is really unique. Give you an example. When Dodgeville passed the referendum, it was a result of their priorities from this process. When Barneveld had started, they had some changes, but that kind of kicked that off. Potosi was the same thing. Lancaster's just finishing up, and they're doing a whole loan forgiveness piece for new teachers that has come out of this. They have a whole HR workup. So it's really interesting to see what different people, different boards come up with. Before I open up questions, there's three pieces. So it's a part of your CISA 3 membership. You're leveraging that, right? It's just a part of it. You get me for that membership. And that facilitation, and again, allows Mr. Wainwright to be a part of this. But, we ask that you stay committed to the process, that you believe that the group is smarter than any one individual, and the belief that you can solve your own problems, that you don't have to hire somebody from the outside to come in and solve your problems. Those 3 things. And because the last thing that we want as a board or as a group, when we're trying to come to consensus, with priorities where you're sticking resources together, is for one person to be out in the community saying, hey, that was my idea, that was somebody else's. So being committed to that process is really important. And then it's a lot of fun because you don't get a lot of opportunities. Otherwise, you're talking motions and seconds and some discussion here and there. To be able to sit down and have some development and board process, it's just a really rewarding process. But you do have to dedicate an extra hour before each board meeting if you're going to do that, or three days spread over a couple months. Questions?
Is it possible to have an option of, instead of the same night as a board meeting, or instead of a full day, that maybe we just a separate evening, like a 90-minute or maybe 2-hour session? Is that an option as well? Open to?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can break it up however you want. So if you want to do some 2-hour sessions for like each week, instead of having that whole month of reflection where you do that time, I'm open to anything. It's not my schedule that you're working around, it's your schedule. So if it works with your schedule, works with, I just find that anything more, if we're going to set aside like a 6-hour, which that's typically, some people want to do it that way, but it's really hard. And it's a lot of sitting, it's a lot of talking, and people are exhausted when they're done with it. But 2 hours max of a lot of dialogue, and I get it started, and then I'm the game show host. I try to be quiet. I'm trying to get conversation among you. That's my job. So yeah, absolutely, as long as it works with the group.
You guys help kind of develop metrics to monitor and manage the priorities we come up with. I think it's good. I like the concept and coming up with priorities, but just write some stuff down on paper and nobody holds us accountable.
Yeah, so we really try to focus on SMART goals. That's the shape. I know that's the kind of old school term, but basically we use the same concept. So it's not vague. The goals aren't vague. They're pretty specific. They're measurable, and then somebody's accountable for them, and we add a timeline to it. And it has to be relevant, realistic. So yeah, no, and so then what I would ask you to do is to include it on the very first, you read your mission or your vision statement at the very beginning, that there's a section of that with strategic planning. And then you ask Mr. Wainwright for, some of those, he'll provide an update. maybe nothing happened in that month. Maybe it's August and something's due by the end of May. And so that constant visiting of those priorities every single month, because it's going to be something that's going to be relevant, something that you're going to want to do, something that you're going to prioritize your resources toward. So that's, you as a group hold each other accountable to those goals that you come together and set.
Can you speak to a little bit about how you've seen boards develop in their communication and how they're working together through this process?
Yeah, so what's really helpful, at first it's more procedural because we have to get used to that question, reflect, write, and what are your ideas? Write it down. What's your ideas? And that's how it starts. So at first, it starts with a lot of what am I thinking so that I can share with the group, to developing more listening. I want to know how other people think. I'm going to share my ideas, but how does it develop? And then it becomes a little bit more natural as it goes on. I've worked with some boards. It's taken to get through the whole process. Now, again, I refer to it death by 1,000 cuts an hour before each board meeting, 6 or 7 months sometimes. Sounds like a long time, but that's 6 or 7 hours, right? Because it's an hour before each board meeting. So it's not the amount of time like at the meeting, but it's having that opportunity to communicate with each other, and then having a month or some time in between to reflect, and then come back, and it opens dialogue. So even though the context is trying to come up with priorities, that communication and that values, and taking that time to get to know, to come together about priorities. Again, you're going to have dozens of priorities that you're responsible for as a board, but to say, we're going to do a really good job with a few things instead of trying to juggle 9,000 things all the time, where the conversation is about moving something forward that you're currently not doing, or something that you're going to look at some more depth.
Jamie, our current strategic plan is, I want to say 5 years, 6 years old, maybe?
No, probably 5.
5, okay. And I know that was originally formed with some stakeholders in the community, and there was kind of a day-long session, or kind of a few hours session of kind of brainstorming from stakeholders to put that together. Is updating that strategic plan something that maybe could come out of this or dovetail into this process, or did you see that as kind of like a separate endeavor?
Yeah, certainly, I think a strategic plan could come out of this. I do strategic planning. I facilitate that, but that's a different process. This is really about board/administrative priorities as a leader. How are we going to communicate? And if creating a strategic plan is one of those goals that comes out of this, that's something next. What we're really going to be focusing on, if you choose to go forward with this process, 18 to 24 months. We really used to focus on that 5-year plan, but the last couple of years, funding has not been predictable. Events have happened that have made things not predictable. Think about the last 5 years, what you went through. Think about the last 18 months. So to have that focus and that priority, one of the advantages that you may have right now in your timing of this is that people are so tired of talking about the pandemic that they're ready to focus on something other than the pandemic. People are hungry to talk about something other than that. And so one of the things as a facilitator is trying to get as many ideas as we can, but that focus on how our students' lives going to be better as a result of this work. How do we do that? Maybe that's teacher development. Maybe that's maybe the work that you do as board members, but ultimately, how does that impact the lives of students? That's really how we try to challenge it. So, for example, you can argue that with the teacher shortage and some of the recruitment and retention strategies, that's really meant to put the best people in front of our students, right? So in the end, students are going to have high quality teachers. So that's a, you know, a perspective. That seems to be the trend of the schools I'm working with right now.
So next steps, if this is something the board wants to get behind.
So I think the first step would be having that initial 90-minute meeting. And to be honest with you, I've had enough practice at it now. It's really down to about 60, depending on how much discussion is there. But set aside 90, so it's not cram. That initial 90 minutes to try to get Infinity down to 10, and then see where we're at, and then try to get something on a regular schedule. Whether you're going to do every Monday or once a month, or whatever on a night other than a board meeting, whatever works for you. Again, I can make just about anything work as long as I'm not already committed with another district. And my wife hasn't put me on something too much.
I don't know if there's a consensus around the 3 6-hour days or something as a board, if you'd rather go either the hour before a meeting or do an off night, something that's not a board meeting night, maybe not even on a board week, that might fit into your schedules. But I think probably is this something that you want to do as a board, and what seems to be the most palatable moving forward then for you guys to work through? And I'll be part of this as well, but
It sounds like it sounds like if we can schedule that initial 90-minute session to get started, and then we can set the schedule from there.
Yes. Yeah. May I have just one more piece of input advice? The reason that people tend to like to do it the same night as board meetings is everybody's busy in the community. And if you're at a board meeting, you tend to have set that whole night aside for your board meeting. I know it makes it long, but if you can all make it work, that's fine. But that's what the reason that other boards have chosen to do it on that same night. But again, whatever works for you.
What's going through my mind, I am very interested in pursuing it. We've had board meetings. Granted, the 2 years I've been on the board, I've completely been wrapped in COVID. But man, we've got long board meetings already. If we're here for a 3-hour board meeting and we add an hour at the beginning, that's kind of soul crushing. I'm not sure I would be giving it the best version of myself at that point.
Into hour 3.
Into hour 3, it's just like,
I've just been through a strategic planning process, which it may not be exactly strategic planning, but this sounds a lot like what we did. And I think the comment about making goals for like the next 1.5 or 2 years, when we got into this, that's all I heard from people is nobody's making a 5-year strategic plan anymore. It's you just do 18 months, 2 years, 3 years max, and set some goals. And then, and I, as an observer of this board, I think that would be great to have, measurable goals like Justin mentioned that Mitch can report on at the beginning of the meeting. And that's what we talk about and focus on. So I'm all for it. Given that it sounds like we're going to be doing this all together. So we're generating ideas. It's not just us responding to this stuff. I would suggest we find times outside of our board meetings where we can be creative and open and have some energy versus, and to address your concern. And I share the concern and agree. I think it's going to be a better process if we set aside some time for this. And I look forward to it. I'd love to get to know all of you better and see what ideas are out there.
Do you think we should take a different direction, or that this might not be worth the board's time? I want to be sensitive to that. Okay. Maybe you think we could schedule the initial session now? I mean, do you have your schedule with you, or should I?
Yeah, no.
I could send the board an email, to get a date at a later time.
Does everybody have their calendars with them? I mean, I get.
It's pretty much up to date on my phone.
Do Monday nights generally work for folks? That's kind of how I've always played this stuff. So our board meets on a Wednesday. So when I try to do things in the evening, I just go for Wednesdays because people generally have that available.
Do any Mondays work in the next few weeks? Or no, not work?
So I know once the rec league softball season is in, all of my kids are playing softball Monday night.
Okay.
But they don't, the schedule's not published yet, so we probably got at least a couple weeks.
Doesn't have to be a Monday night.
The next 2 Mondays work for me.
I would really like to have a night that especially, there's going to be nights you're running into conflict. But when we get to that first one where we're going from infinity down to 10, we talk about the process. It's really important that we can try to have every board member there. And if not, then what we would do is we would make sure that we got a list somehow from you if you weren't able to be there, just so that your input has been considered.
Good for Mondays.
May is probably a pretty tough month for you to start with graduation and Mr. Wainwright. This is like heck month, right?
Uh-huh.
We want to consider maybe June to start, possibly.
Tony, do you need some time to?
I think I probably need some time to check some ball schedules.
I mean, if we're gonna set something up in June, we've got time to maybe put it on the schedule, so I can send something around for people to chime in.
That would be good.
Okay. That sound okay, Jamie?
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, no, I mean, July, August, it's fine. The spirit of what you're talking about is you get it. This is going to be some mental investment here. And that key is kicking that first meeting off, because that's going to set the tone for the rest of the process. So I do it when you don't have 9,000 things going on. May is a tough month, but I just wanted you to have at least a 10,000 foot view of the process.
I'd also entertain if anybody else would be open to it, but like a Saturday morning at 8:00 with a big cup of coffee and, spend an hour and a half chatting, and you'd still have the rest of your weekend free. Now, as we get into summer, I'm not sure what Saturdays start to look like for everybody, but it's an idea I'd throw out there too.
I'm open to that too.
I'm open to it.
I'm open to that.
I'm cool with it. I mean, no disrespect, but when we've tried it, I've always had board members gone.
Oh,
We've tried. I've showed up, and then they're like, "Yeah, we need to reschedule this," and everybody showed up, and they're like, "But maybe you're a different group."
We'll just have to be honest about our schedules and make sure we can actually make it.
if you want to pull us by email, that would be great, and I'll check out the
And I can work with you as to,
Yeah, do you do doodle polls at all?
I have.
Maybe that would be it. Maybe that'd be something we could try. Yeah, especially if we're going off board meetings. So anyway, I'll just be quiet now because I'm confused in the process here. But I just trying to share what the experience. I've been doing this for 5 years, and so I kind of seeing how it works. So anyway, you just let me know.
I will.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks, Gina.
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you. You're welcome.
Looking forward
Thanks
to
for
it.
having me. I appreciate it.
We'll pull us for the initial meeting.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone.
Okay. Next is determination of board members' salaries. Did you have any comments?
When you're talking about setting the board members' salaries, I'd like you to take into consideration the one lone non-board member that serves in a quasi-board fashion, that is your board secretary. You have 14 meetings. If we have no special meeting, nothing comes up, you have 14 meetings throughout the course of the school year. You have 2 in April, one is to swear in the new board members, and you have 2 in October, and one is to set the levy, certify the levy. And I would ask that you give serious consideration to paying Angie Schubert for her time serving as your board secretary. He's already gone. I've used Mr. Nutter. CSET sends out quite a few surveys to school districts. There are 31 school districts in CESA 3. Of the 31, 26 school boards have a school board member serve as in that capacity. So we're more of a rarity than the norm. And a lot of them do pay for that position. I would ask that you give serious consideration to paying $100 per meeting for that service. Because there are a lot of other things that go into that job other than just writing down what it is you say in the motions and those kinds of things. So as you're looking at setting board member salaries, I would ask that you consider that as well.
Okay, so just to be clear, the current stipend for board members is $600 a year.
That is correct.
That's currently in the upcoming budget.
Yes.
Right? But there is no money in the budget for a secretary stipend. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. This is my 4th year on the board. I think it's been 600 for board members as long as I've been on the board. You know how long it's been 600 a year?
I would say probably 6, maybe even 7 years. It's been that. And some board members take the money. Some board members don't take the money. Some board members tell the bookkeeper, I want my salary to go towards X, Y, or Z. Put it in the music program, put it in National Honor Society, whatever the case may be. We have to budget for that money. No matter what, if you decide to take it, if you decide to donate it back, the district has to budget for that money. So a simple solution would be to budget $400 for your salaries. And if we budget $400 for board member salaries, I now have the $1,400 to pay the board secretary without any impact on the budget.
Do you have any thoughts on that, or assuming you're looking for a motion?
I would be looking for a motion of some sort, yes.
My only thought on and I've tossed around the issue, we get paid, not get paid, whatever. I think it's important that we do pay the board enough that if someone who had young children that had no other childcare, they would still be able to be on the board, that they'd be able to pay a babysitter, and still be able to come to this and still have, they wouldn't be out money if they couldn't afford it. So it kind of opens it up for everybody, I don't know, I think for a year, would $400 cover that? I don't know what babysitters get. So I would guess not. So that's the only concern I have that way. But I mean, but I also agree that we should air. So I know I'm doing nothing but muddying the waters here. I'm just trying to put that thought out there. That ideal if the board, being on the board isn't such a financial hit for people who maybe otherwise couldn't afford to be on the board.
Mitch, I know there is a form you can fill out at some point to decline our pay. Could we fill that out when the time comes to transfer our pay to another employee?
I certainly think you can. I mean, in essence, it's your money. So it would be, you're deciding what you want done with your money. Just like somebody can say, I want mine to go to the FFA or Skills USA. It would be basically the same thing. The other area we received, Wisconsin just received notification that their ESSER 3 plan was finally approved at the federal level. And as such, the Mineral Point School District is picking up some additional funds for ESSER 3. So that's another area that I could look at. If you are on board with that pay, I can look to that ESSER 3 monies as another spot where we can pay that stipend.
We compare to like Dodgeville.
Dodgeville is a board member. So they are, it says no extra pay beyond their board salary for that secretary position, but it is a board member and they pay their board members.
You mean what is the board
What's the board-
member's
what's the
salary?
board's
That I don't have. I'll quote what was typed in by the Dodgeville superintendent. No extra pay beyond the exorbitant board salary is what their superintendent put in there. So I do not know what their board members make.
Just from rubbing elbows at a state convention, I want to say typical board salaries in kind of the 1,200 to 2,000 range. Does that seem to sit better as an estimate?
I have heard some of those same things, and I know Jeff Basting was here as the board president. He had spoken about some places pay the board president a little bit more as the board president compared to the other board members. But yeah, typically it's in that ballpark is what I've heard a lot of districts do pay for or pay their board members.
Well, as far as paying the secretary, I mean, we have a $13 million budget and we have the responsibility to be very fiscally responsible, but this doesn't seem like we should be having a hard time coming up with $1,400 per meeting, so $1,400. Over the last few years, we've had several special meetings, so maybe that needs to be a little more. We have to plan for a little more than that, but this to me doesn't seem like it should be a hard decision for us to make.
I totally agree. I think it's just where's the smartest place for it to come from,
Yeah.
while at the same time honoring the reason why board members, we decide board members get paid anyway.
Right.
Because I think to Bob's point, I think some board members don't want to be paid at all, and they refuse the money or they donate it back or whatever, which everyone has a right to do. But I think to Bob's point, I think the initial intent of the payment is not only to for the community to designate value to the role, but also to make it an equitable endeavor for anyone, regardless of income, to be able to take this amount of time out of their schedule for childcare or work schedule or whatever to serve the community. So I think that's the question. Is $600 adequate for that? And so I'm kind of leaning towards, maybe we should make sure that it's enough for someone to be on the board and have it be, not financially damaging to them. And then we can agree to, fund the secretary stipend this year and put it in the budget for future years.
So to that point, though, I don't know that I'm interested in talking about the $600 going up. I believe that we need to make sure that we could serve on the board without incurring financial hardship. But in a year when we didn't fulfill full CPI, certainly don't think that it would be an appropriate move for us, even though the reasoning is reasonable. I think that we don't touch the 600 or we reduce the 600. But I don't think that should impact the secretary.
No, I agree 100%.
If we approve the secretary pay tonight, do we have to decide where it's coming from right now?
I can determine where the money comes from.
It just got us covered.
I think like how we looked at those a couple weeks ago, and effort drives those fees. I think that should be up for discussion. With Joni, this year is probably not the best year, but we should look at the effort that goes into serving on the board. And is $600 adequate for the effort and the time that it takes to serve?
Yeah, and I also think if we're in agreement in terms of why a board member should be paid and, the concept behind that, whether it's to, compensate living wage or childcare, and then maybe adequately reflect that and increase with inflation. And, we should kind of maybe have something built in that reflects really the intent instead of, it kind of feels like an arbitrary number sometimes.
Yes.
I just figured, I never think of the 14 meetings. I just think of the 12. I'm like, okay, $50 a night, if the meetings are a couple hours, could you get a babysitter, and it's been a long time since I've.
I think of it as the pizza money, the money that we will spend ordering pizza because I'm not home to cook supper.
Exactly.
Pizza money.
Same
So
concept.
this was based on 12 regular meetings and it didn't take into consideration the two that are also already scheduled on.
$50 a meeting. That was kind of how it originally came about.
Right. Those two are going to be on the calendar in April and October. Those two meetings are.
My rough math is $150 get a babysitter for these. You are gonna have a babysitter for all the meetings for 3 hours. So, but I think I just wanted to say, I think it's worth it paying somebody else to be the secretary. I've been on a board and been the secretary and you can't participate. You're just taking notes and that's it. So I feel it's good that we have somebody else doing it and I'm fine paying them. So, and I think I'd be fine with the $600 this year. And then we keep that in mind for next year's budget to have it reflect what it would cost to have a babysitter or feed kids when we're gone. So I'd be happy to make a motion to pay the secretary position $100 per meeting. I'd suggest we make a budget of $2,000 in case we have extra meetings. So it's just there so that we can make that work. And that the rest of the board members that are here, that are elected, receive the $600 for this year. And, in the next 12 months, we revisit this before we have this meeting next year to make and see if we can fit something bigger in the budget that would reflect the realities of childcare and meals.
What about this language? The secretary stipend, $100 per meeting, not to exceed $2,000, because then that's a fiscal cap.
Yep.
Okay.
I just want to second, I think it's ideal to have not only somebody not on the board, but a professional not on the board. I think sometimes the quality of meeting minutes can take a hit then based on who the secretary is. We have a gem of a secretary, so I think that should be rewarded.
Yes, we have a motion for secretary stipend, $100 per meeting, not to exceed $2,000 per year, and to continue the board member stipend at $600 annually. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a second.
That was my long way of seconding. Yes, sorry.
Any other discussion or comments? We vote.
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Metka,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. That's good discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's way overdue.
Guys, Mitch.
Okay, next is appointment of standing committees. Currently, there are 4 standing committees: operations, policy, personnel, and finance. I have some notes here, Mitch, unless you have some notes in front of you. Looks like there's an opening in personnel, operations, and finance.
I didn't bring my committee list, but Angie has one, and Angie has a copy.
So do we just say which ones we are interested in?
Yes. Okay. So yeah, I guess I just want to say, just because you're on a committee now doesn't mean you have to stay on that committee. But I mean, I think if your skills and your interests are well suited to that committee, you're welcome to stay on it. Otherwise, certainly can be a good experience to rotate committees and have those experiences. And I also want to defer to the new members as far as if you have a strong preference for a committee or feel like your skills and interests fit a committee, even if there are not openings, we can talk about, moving chairs around. So any
I'm
thoughts?
interested in personnel and operations.
Okay. Anyone interested in either of those two?
What does the operations committee work on?
It includes buildings and grounds. And we also talk about like capital maintenance on Fund 46, projects.
Basically, operating kind of the operation of the buildings and the district as a whole. So yeah, those are probably the two biggest areas that it's covered in the last few years.
Technology, utilities.
Yeah, I'd be interested in operations and in finance. Finance is probably the strongest skill set I can bring.
Okay. So there's 3 openings for the 2 of you technically. So Christy, if you're cool taking operations and personnel, and then Will, you'd be on finance.
Yep.
That sound good? Okay.
And if you need me anywhere else, just plug me in.
You need a chair and a vice chair as well for each of those committees.
Yeah. So you're on operations. How do you feel about being chair of operations? Okay. So Ann Skelding would be chair of operations.
I was on finance too,
You are on finance, yeah.
right? If Andy still wants to be on there, I can move to something else if Bill wants to be on there.
No, we got to stop for Will on there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to be on finance
Would-
if somebody would be interested in switching on to policy or personnel.
Move to policy.
Up.
Policies.
Not
Sure about
policy.
Do you have
No,
any
I'm not
shirts for
sure about
policy?
that.
Get uniforms.
Here's some of those policies could use some refreshing.
What are your thoughts about being a policy chair? Sure. Is that okay for your schedule? Go with this year and everything? Okay.
You still want to be in finance, right?
Yes.
Chair.
Yeah. I'm going to read that off to you. Angie, let me just give this back to you.
Yeah, I'll put that together for everyone and send it out.
So the finance committee is now Andy, Joni, and Will. All right. There is a strong desire. I've been approached several times by some staff members with some cost saving ideas, and they would like to sit down with the finance committee meeting. So kind of look your calendars over and some thoughts that they have put together as a way to potentially save the district money.
There's a strong desire to do the same by the finance.
Absolutely,
committee.
absolutely. I
It
thought
works
that would
out
be,
well.
I thought that would be well received.
The operations chair is Skelding, Dunn is vice chair, and Johnston on that committee. Finance chair is Bush, Eisner vice, Harris on that committee as well. Personnel chair is Eisner, vice chair Johnston, also on it. Policy chair is Janetta Selding Vice. We need a CISA 3 representative. It sounded like Will was up for anything, he said.
Sounds good.
Sure, I can do that since I'm only on one committee.
Okay.
Normally they're fighting over it. They're fighting to be the CISA.
Remember, you got a video camera.
And then the WASB delegate,
One second. So Jamie, you want to just touch on obligations as CISA 3 delegate?
Be at the end of the meeting.
Annual meeting.
That will send the information out.
Okay.
And we'll go over, we'll give you the directions. Then you can report back to everybody here.
Thank you. And then next is the WASB delegate. WASB delegate attends the state convention in Milwaukee in January and is the representative from the school district to vote or participate in the vote of various lobbying resolutions that WASB puts together to take to the state legislature. So, Tony, you did that last year?
I did it last year. It was a very interesting experience, hearing kind of about the approach that as an organization WASB takes to policy and really kind of the grassroots part of the organization. But I'd certainly be willing to let somebody else sit in that chair and have that experience.
You have to be the WASB delegate to go to the annual.
No,
No.
I was just going to say, I mean, all board members are invited to the state convention. And it's something that's supported by the school district.
it's typically the third week in January. So if you look at your calendars right now, that would be the 18th, 19th, and 20th of January. I would encourage members to go. Bob and Joni, you both went last year as for your first time. Dr. Dunnett was there last year and has gone before. I don't know if you'd like to say anything about that convention, words of encouragement. But I think it's a very good convention that a lot of good ideas are thrown around.
I think the breadth of the topics covered is pretty amazing, actually, like what you can go and learn a little more about. I mean, almost anything having to do with governance or legal issues or, I mean, COVID. Yeah, last year, of course, a lot of COVID. Hopefully there won't be so much next year. But funding, all these things are just wonderful topics that are covered. And not only by one person, but you can go to 2 or 3 different meetings on a similar topic, and actually get a lot of different viewpoints. So I recommend it fully. It was a wonderful use of my time.
You also get to spend a few days in the company of other individuals who are willing to, give up their free time to help ensure that their local public education system remains strong. And yeah, that was kind of nice, especially coming out of a couple COVID years where sometimes it didn't always feel like we had a lot of love. So it was good to be surrounded by other people who could kind of lift you up and make you feel like there's good in what we do. Recommend it.
Well, I'm definitely interested in going to the convention, but I don't need to be the delegate. If you want to do that again.
I would gladly pass the reins. It is not the most exciting part of the convention, but I do think it's educational and it's good to understand kind of how the policies are set and formed.
Dr. Dunn, you did that for how many years?
I did WASB delegate, maybe a couple.
I think you were one in person and one online.
Yes.
Right. So I think you were for 2 years.
Maybe the second year gets better, Johnny.
Okay. I'll go.
We're done.
Parents, you take some authority. I like it.
That's right. That's right. Put it or the wheel.
That's right.
Okay. Next is the Sunshine Fund. The district will donate to the Mineral Point Excellence in Education Endowment Fund in honor of a former staff member or father, mother of a staff member on behalf of the board and administrative team. Please consider contributing $20, which is the suggested amount, to replenish the Sunshine Fund. Where are we at right now, Angie, in terms of a running total?
We have a good cushion at this time, but we put this on this agenda every year. So I will let you know if we are hurting for money and need money at any time. We've been there. Funerals that pop up, but we have a good cushion right now, in excess of $5 million. We had a really hefty contribution. We had several hefty contributions.
Okay, so we'll just put it on your radar. Angie might ask for $20 here and there, so. Let's bring your checkbook to Marla.
And we
Cash
haven't-
only.
And we haven't had a lot of, we haven't had to send a lot of memorials recently. This year.
We're still working on kind of something for Larry.
I think Mitch has got some information on that later, or now, or.
Later.
Great. Okay,
Just the approval of minutes.
yeah, now that completes the annual organization business agenda, so thank you for doing that. Next is approval of minutes. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes from the regular 411 meeting and the 425 special meeting, or separately if you'd rather.
Move to approve both the regular meeting on 411, the minutes from the regular meeting on 411 and the special meeting on 420.
Second.
Okay, thanks. Harris, any other comments?
Meeting on the 25th is when Will and I were sworn in, correct?
Correct.
So it says that the members present, Sullivan and Seifert are still on there. Does that need to be changed? Oh,
Yes, thank you.
I'm gonna make that correction.
This is a point of clarification there, Angie. So I'm assuming since they weren't sworn in at the beginning of the meeting, the new members would not count towards a quorum at the start of the meeting, correct?
You mean in attendance?
In attendance as a quorum if they hadn't been sworn in yet. What I'm saying is that left 4 of us there as Andy was gone.
That's
But you don't vote for anything until
They
they're
were
board
sworn
members.
in.
Okay.
It's the first thing you do at the meeting.
So we could have still had the meeting if one other board member would have been, regular board member would have been absent.
Yeah.
Because once we swear in the new ones, then we would have had a quorum. Got it. You see what I'm asking?
Right.
Okay.
Correct. We would not have been able to have a meeting if the rest of you hadn't.
Well, I mean.
Four's a quorum.
Four's a quorum, I understand. But the new members don't count towards a quorum until they're sworn in.
And then they made 6
Right, you're right.
He's
you
saying
did-
if somebody else. would have
if somebody else was gone. Right. But you had a quorum to start the meeting.
Yes, we did. Yeah. All right. So thank you. So we'll amend those minutes. Can you redo your motion with the proposed amendment?
Yes, I move to approve the meeting minutes for both the April 11th regular meeting and the April 25th special meeting, with the change to section 1 call to order, removing members that were not present. I guess former member Sullivan and Steve.
Second the motion. Okay. Connecticut Harris. One question?
Nika,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Skelding,
Yes.
Bush,
Yeah.
Aaron,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Okay, next is board communications received.
I fielded one call from a concerned member of the community about an incident that happened at school. That communication has happened offline, so there's really not, I don't really have anything else to share on that.
Received, just a note, I think we all received it, but I did receive an email from a board member that represented the faculty to the finance committee about passing on the dissatisfaction that we did not fully fund CPI. Received another email from a family member of a staff member advocating for an individual assessment of a plan for that person. And got a couple inquiries on the furry situation at Mineral Point. Beyond that, nothing.
Anything?
No, nothing that hasn't already. Just to be, I think to be clear, there is no furry situation. Correct. As at Mineral.
That was the question.
Yeah, correct. Just to not spread.
Okay, good. I got one additional email that was sent to me and Mr. Wainwright by one of the chaperones on the band trip to Disney World. Basically saying that he was extremely impressed with how the band students behaved from start to finish. And could not have enough nice things to say about Mr. Nevers and all the other chaperones, Ms. McHugh, their performance. So just really glowing review of the band trip that, you know, when you're riding on a bus for 25 straight hours, a lot of things can go wrong. And a lot of behaviors can get off the rails, but it sounds like they were top notch. So that was great to hear. Okay. There's no other board communications. We'll go to citizen communications. Did anyone sign up?
Here.
Okay. Is anyone present who would like to speak? Okay.
You should have seen his face. Oh my gosh. The way you let into that, he was like,
I'm going to be bad. Yeah.
That's all good. My heart's still pounding.
No, I'll actually share that with you, Matt. It was,
I would appreciate
was
it.
compelling. Anyone participating online, feel free to use the raise your hand icon. Okay, looks like
I
nobody.
do have a quick comment on that. I don't exactly remember if we looked at the policy for changing public comment or we changed pieces of it. I believe we changed the email participation. I think we may want to strike that from the posting about emailing you prior to the meeting for citizen communication.
Yes.
If we struck that, I thought we struck that piece.
They still can email him. We just won't read it verbatim.
Okay.
I think each
They
email will
can
not.
email any of us.
So I think that the amendment was that the email will not be read
Right.
like as a proxy. You know, you won't just read the comments verbatim, but
Okay.
I base.
I didn't know what the intent to that statement was. If you would like your comment read, you can email.
I think that. I think that,
Because they can email any of us. And it's not right.
that's right.
So that seemed to me to be maybe different intent, but if it's not, we can.
Yeah, the email did not ask me to read it at the board meeting. Is that what you're getting at?
No, we're in the comments to the audience, it
The language
says
that's in here.
Oh, okay.
you may send an email to me.
Yes, that is true.
That's all. That's always true.
Yeah, that's always
So
true.
I thought maybe the intent of that was if you would like it read aloud, you could, when it got added to this.
Oh, I see.
So I just wanted to make sure that wasn't no longer the intent, if that was the policy. We can move on.
Maybe that should be changed that you can email the board prior to the meeting instead of just me.
And I don't have, I just want to make sure that
I think.
The intent was not having it real.
I think the intent behind this comment, if I remember right, is if you are going to be online and you would like to speak, you email me ahead of time and I can save a spot for you. But in the meantime, since that happened, we figured out how to kind of raise your hand using Zoom.
No problem.
I'm up for changing it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Next is items for information and discussion.
And I just have a question.
Yeah.
I know we nominated all these officers and delegates and everything. Do we have to vote on those to make it official? I know that there's only one nominee for each of the things, or do we just fill out our little paper ballot and turn that in at the beginning? Or-
The paper ballot is for if there's more than one nominee for the same office, and
Right.
you need to vote for one or the other.
So it's done.
Yeah, so it's done.
Move on.
Yeah, so
Got
if
it.
you're,
You hoping for a write-in for clerk?
yeah, you're officially the clerk. Congratulations.
Sounds good.
Okay, we're at the 22-23 fee schedule.
So you have a copy of our current fee schedule. One of the things I've been working with Kimmy Cleary in our lunch department, and we will continue to send out, or let me back that up. We will send out information and then follow up with that information. That the day of the free lunch is coming to an end. The end of the school year is the end of the free lunch program. So the federal government decided not to renew that moving forward. So moving into next year, if somebody qualifies for free and reduced, they will have to fill out the paperwork in order to get free lunch or have it at a reduced cost. Otherwise, anybody taking advantage of the lunch program or breakfast program next year will have to pay for it. So one of the things that TAHR is looking at is probably needing to increase the student lunches by a dime for next year. That's not reflected in this current fee schedule, but it is something I will get confirmation on from them, and we'll approve it. We can approve it in June. We can approve it in July. I mean, it can be done anytime prior to the start of the next school year. But that's one of the things we're looking at. And then I don't
We'll
know.
want to have it done before July, before registration information. So probably at our next.
So then I don't know if there's, if you'd like to look at this and have a conversation around any of the other fees that are charged. If you have questions about what the fees are, you can certainly send them to me and I can provide an answer ahead of next board meeting. But here's, like I said, here's the current list of fees that the board will approve so that we can get them printed and put out so families know. As Angie said, with registration coming, then people will come in and start paying school fees ahead of time.
Okay, so just clarification. So these fees are not an increase from the year before.
Everything is identical. So what you see here is identical to the 21-22 fees.
Got it. Including the school lunch fees in red.
Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed.
Nothing's
But
changed.
the school lunch fees will go up a dime.
Looking at the student fees, the student lunch is going up a dime. If you remember 4 or 5 months ago, maybe we had to adjust the adult lunch prices based on federal guidelines. Those are okay yet, so there wouldn't need to be an adjustment at that point in time, but looking at the need to increase a student lunch or breakfast fee by 10 cents.
I feel like we've discussed the substitute teacher rate sometime throughout the current school year. Is this 115, 125, and 150? Is that still a accurate representation of what we're doing?
I checked with CISA. They're doing a poll of other area districts. So as soon as blanks are put on the sheet, I can have Mitch send that out. The rest of you to see where everyone else is at in our. But currently, for this year, that's the information that they're giving us is what their rates are current, not at what they're looking at for in 220.
Do any of the other fees need to be increased? Because we're talking about a such a tight budget, we know everything's going up. Do any of the other fees need to be increased? Or in other words, are we short in some areas where we're not?
How often do you as administrator increase these fees? Or recommend that they be increased by, say, $5?
I think the last time anything was increased was probably 5 years ago. When it
did
came,
we increase the activity cap? Is that about 3 years ago?
I mean, these do not necessarily offset a revenue loss.
No, right, of course.
And we try to keep things as affordable as possible to kind of help offset some costs, but they don't cover things in full.
Right.
I'm not hearing anybody come forward saying, boy, this is really digging into my school budget, or, things are, I need more money in shop fees or things like that. Those things are handled almost on a per pupil basis between the instructor.
Oh.
I'm building a project and I want it on all walnut. Well, that comes out of the student's own pocket. That's not part of the shop fees and things like that. So at this point in time, I'm not looking at recommending other areas would be increased. So it's not an action item, but I think it's just something for you to look at. If you have questions, certainly send them to me, and then we'll be bringing it back in June for approval so we can get it published and out in front of our families for the upcoming school year.
Do students and families that qualify for free and reduced lunch, do they get a discount on the other school fees?
As long as there's a little checkbox that says you're giving us permission to share that information. And if they give us that little checkbox, then yes, enrollment fees, registration fees, any kind of fees are reduced or taken care of. If they choose not to allow us to share that, then typically we're not supposed to share that. And therefore it only impacts the breakfast and lunch.
It's reduced or written off on a case-by-case basis? Or do you apply the same discount to every situation?
It would be, so if somebody is qualified for reduced and they say, go ahead and share that information, then everything is reduced. If they qualify for free, then all those things apply. So it isn't a family by family or case by case, so to speak. Those fees will be waived.
Well, they're waived.
If you qualify for free, then fees will be waived.
Okay. Great, thank you. Okay. So if part of these are going to be updated with new recommendations for the June meeting, I guess this is for information, so you really would be taking action here.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. All right, any other questions about this fee schedule before we move on? No, okay. Next is the budget comparison.
So if you look at the April budget, our expenditures were about 71% of our budget at that time. And this year in April of 22, we've spent about 72.8%. So about 73% of our budget. I remember last month when I said there was a bigger jump, it was a big push around staff members were asked to spend money. If you know you need it in the fourth quarter, please spend it out by April 1st. Get those purchases made so that the things are here, so then we can look at what is in the budget, what might allow us to make some budget amendments or move some money around in the budget if needed. So that was the bigger jump last month. So it's kind of standard, kind of typical pattern that we're following from year to year.
Their fiscal year and June 30th.
Yes.
So we're in the fourth quarter of our fiscal year.
Correct.
Right.
It's a question that's a little bit related to this, and a little bit related to the fee schedule. Do you know if this has been considered, or if other school districts do something like in reference to school supplies? Currently, the student gets a list, the parent goes and gets it on their own dime, wherever, right? One thought I had was, well, if the school could buy things in huge bulk, number 2 pencils, Kleenex, crayons, and offset that expense or estimated expense with school fee, is that something that could be a net savings for the district and the families, as well as kind of eliminating an additional burden to starting the school year? Because I've got to scramble for finding school supplies that are left on the shelf at Walmart, or
Or will they even be there this year?
right. So I mean, has that been toyed around, or do other school districts do that? I just was wondering if we've ever. It's a little bit of a paradigm shift, and I think the parents would have to and teachers maybe have to shift to that, but I don't know if that's been looked at all.
I'm not aware of any other school districts that are doing that. I think it would be something to look at as to what each class, each grade level is asking students to provide and get a budget amount. Typically, I can't believe they're not there in Walmart right now, the back to school supplies, because they push everything. Next month will be Christmas already. So,
Right.
But you get a list, you can go in, I'm from the Barneveld School District, I can pick up the Barneveld list. I'm from the Mineral Point District, I can pick up the Mineral Point list. Yes, we could do some of that investigating to kind of find out, okay, what is it going to cost per pupil, and then how many kids per grade level, and look at what that would entail for the district to buy. How can we buy it? Where can we buy it? At what cost? And how to try to offset that through a slight increase in student fees. But to be able to give you that now, I can't give that to you now. And again, I'm not aware of other school districts that do that buy in bulk so that it's all provided for districts.
Would that be something that anybody over at that, the sweep thing we do? I just saw that changing.
When my kids were younger,
Oh,
they used to
Mitch,
have,
click on start video down at the bottom. Oh, in the Zoom. On the left, bottom left.
I'm up. There we go.
when my kids were younger, they used to have the box, the
Right.
supply box.
Right.
Have used to do that.
PEP used to do that, which is now PEP. And you then also have the box to put all of your work throughout the year in and store it chronologically through the year. And I don't know how many years we haven't been doing that, probably 5. That was an awesome program that group did.
And
With
that was
all of the supplies.
a parent group, or that was a company?
It was PEP. It was which is now PEP.
Uh-huh.
Went through
It was an org,
supply,
yeah, like the
School
company did
supply.
it, right?
the
The,
school supply, something you could order those boxes for
Yeah, I remember that.
$35 maybe for whatever grade. It
Oh,
depended on what grade it was, but it had everything you needed in there, maybe with the exception of the Kleenexes
Right.
or the wipes.
Could you maybe just put it on your admin team agenda? Just to see what everyone thinks, if that's
So PEP would
crazy,
put the
crazy, or.
boxes together.
No, just kind of facilitate
You would
the,
order them from a company.
yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. And then when they were delivered by the huge semis, then they'd organize first grade, second grade, third grade. I think
I
it was
remember that.
maybe through 8th grade, I think. K8, they did that. Awesome. Full handles on it,
Mhm.
all their work was stuff in there. It was awesome.
Okay, sorry for that tangent. I just thought it was Somewhat relevant, okay. Any comments or concerns about the budget comparison? Well, the only question I had, Mitch, is are you anticipating, is it too early to say you're anticipating some kind of a surplus or deficit by end of year?
By the end of this fiscal year,
Yes.
we will not be in a deficit by the end of this fiscal year. And in our next section of the board meeting, I'm hoping you help me address next year's budget deficit.
Okay. But you always want to know if we budgeted correctly. We're heading towards a deficit. That would imply that we've had some unanticipated expenses or we didn't budget.
Yeah, we will not be in a budget deficit.
You heard it here first, right? All right. Any other questions, concerns before we go to the action items? Okay. Open enrollment.
In your board package, you have a list of open enrollments ins and outs. You're not allowed to vote by name. You're only allowed to vote numbers. We have potentially 3 students seeking open enrollment out, one of which is currently a Mineral Point student. So not a loss really for the district, but look at the grade level. For the other 2, that there will be a slight impact on that aspect. If you look at the open enrollment in, there's 2 parts to that first page on the spreadsheet. There are 2 7th grade students that we will need to deny their open enrollment in request based on the numbers we had to set back in January. Remember, every year in January, we have to set our open enrollment numbers. We tried to anticipate our current enrollment, were there any tuition waivers, and what, we talked about adding at least 1 position, 1 seat while we hit that cap, and we have 2 more. So I would be asking that you approve the open enrollment in and out numbers with the denial of 2 7th grade students.
Why do we have to, can you explain a little more why we have to deny them or we can't accommodate them? Is this an interaction with the state?
State law says you have to set those numbers in January. So you have to anticipate
just
in January how many seats you might have available in the upcoming school year. So again, it's always that guessing game in January. What are our current numbers? Can we take more students in? And so then it was set in January, and because we hit too many students in that one particular grade, we have to deny 2 students.
It's a hard conversation to have in January, but we're trying to protect our student-teacher ratio.
Right.
And just to be clear, if it's a student that lives in the district, then if they currently go to another school and they want to start coming here, then they can. Or if they move into the district, then they won't be denied.
Okay.
It's all kids that live outside our district
Right.
that we have to set limits on.
Aaron, can you say that again? If it's a student who is going to a current Mineral Point resident who's going to a different district right now and they want to come back into Mineral Point, they cannot?
They can.
They can't.
Yes.
Yes.
If they live inside our school district boundary and they are our student and they do not impact the open enrollment numbers. They impact enrollment, but not these open enrollment numbers.
What is policy 423?
That determines who gets, if there's too many people for a seat or for a grade level, then it determines, if they were a current student last year, they have preferential seat placing over a new student, a new application. So that is your board policy on how to handle that. So in essence, then if all 3 students leave then we would have basically 22 students. We'd have a gain of 19 additional open enrolled students this year if everybody were to come. And again, they apply. That does not necessarily mean they show up. They're supposed to notify the school district prior to the start of school. That doesn't always happen. But we're ahead on potential open enrollment numbers, and this continues to make that number grow.
So when I look at the 2 7th graders, I know there's one that says the student must be denied. There's another one, there's not another one that actually says on the list they should be denied. So which one is the other one? Okay.
It'll be random.
Okay.
So I'd be looking for a motion to accept these open enrollment in and out numbers.
I'll make a motion to approve the in and out numbers.
Mrs. Scully, with your comments, questions, discussion?
Johnston,
Yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Janetka,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. I just want to highlight again, just for the board members, that I think we're one of the few districts in the area that have a net positive open enrollment. That just speaks well to the district top to bottom.
By fair margin.
Okay. CISA 3 contract approval.
So this will help.
This is what Mr. Nutter is waiting for, I think.
I was walking out and I read it. I'm like, geez, I might as well stay here and listen, see how this goes.
This
No,
was,
actually, I just answer any questions. So
this will certainly help address the budget deficit we have for next year, because I have monies available yet this fiscal year that I can pay the bill. So CISA 3 provides services that we can't necessarily afford to hire individually. If it's a speech teacher and we only need a speech teacher here 1 day a week for 2 hours, I can't afford to pay them $70,000, $80,000 to be here with all the benefits. CISA provides those services for us. They hire the individual and then contract out with districts who need those services. So in essence, there are some increases in cost this year compared to last year for us. And it's basically in some of the programming. Most of the prices have stayed exactly the same from the 21-22 school year to the 22-23. We're just asking and needing some additional services. One of those being the Title I network. We have one Title I teacher in our district, and the state's program is kind of falling away. And Dr. Nutter, maybe you can help explain that a little bit. The state used to have a Title I network, and they're not necessarily running it the same way.
well, they had a grant that covered. They paid it on your behalf, and they cut the grant.
So CISA,
It was meant to be a starter program, and they kind of.
So CISA is picking up this kind of support level for any Title I instructors, and ours, we would like to provide the opportunity to be able to have this network, to be able to reach out to other Title I teachers and have that support, almost like a professional learning community of Title I teachers. So that's an increase in cost. It's a new program that CISA is providing. We wish to take advantage of that. And then there is another area in the hearing category. And again, some of the services that we need to contract for are driven by IEPs as well. So we don't really have a lot of choices when it comes to always what we're providing. If there are students and they need a service, it's as determined, we provide that service. I don't know, Angie, would you like to speak to that?
I was just going to add, not to throw Jamie under the bus, but I sent out to the directors, if does anybody else have a hearing instructor that they use just so we could do a cost comparison, and there's not a single other hearing instructor in CISA 3 that is available. Jamie has found the only person And I mean, that's one of the, yeah, we have a hearing instructor and 2 paraprofessionals that work under her.
2 hearing ones.
Thank you. But it's a really a program where there's just not staff certified in that. So kudos to Jamie for even tracking down that amount of service provider. But, you know, we wouldn't even have another option if we wanted to explore a different option. I wouldn't even know where to go.
One thing I'd just like to add, I know you didn't ask me to speak, but I appreciate the opportunity. Anything on the bottom with special ed, like for speech and language, deaf and hard of hearing, whatever our cost is what we divided out. So if you split, like with, say you went with the Dodgeville and you split between 2 people, the 66-30 agreement, it was 50-50. They'd have 50% of the cost, you'd have 50% of the cost. That's the easy math. If we have somebody, because you're paying a member, we're not upcharging to have deaf and hard of hearing services. So if that person costs $100,000 total package with the Wisconsin retirement system, health insurance, dental insurance, long-term disability, the travel, all of that fixed costs, based on use, that's your portion. The rates, we have not increased any rates on anything. We've kept that flat since I've been there for 5 years. It's just if you're increasing going up with special ed, it's because your IEP minutes went up because either a student got referred or a student had more needs. If it decreased, it wasn't because the rate decreased, it's because the need decreased. So it's just based on that. So it fluctuates between. So if we get more people involved and we can divide that out a little bit, then the net cost drops for everybody. And everybody shares in those low incidents. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know we didn't raise anything. We know what everybody's going through. We balance our budget through cuts.
Mitch, did you say you can pay for next year's this year? All of it?
Make a motion, we approve the 6-3 contract.
Okay.
We got it.
Bush Skelding.
My buzzer.
Do a replay.
Mitch, does all of this come out of general fund, or because some of it's for students with special needs, does some of it come out of the special ed fund?
There are some things that we can get reimbursed for through special ed costs. But yes, this initially up front, it's out of the general fund.
Okay, so a portion of this could be reimbursed with special ed funds once you apply for it. Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion? Yes, thanks, Jamie. Did you call a question?
Bush,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Janetka,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Next is approval of the sweep 1 and 2 contracts.
Mineral Point is part of SWEEP, and please don't ask me what the acronym stands for. Something about Southwest Educational Partners. It's basically a consortium of school districts that through a 66.0301 agreement, everybody refers to it as a 6630. It's different government agencies agreeing to work together, cooperate. So we can purchase a lot of our paper towel products. Most of the dispensers at the elementary school, most of the paper towel dispensers in the elementary school came free of charge because we were part of SWEEP, and we get our paper towel through SWEEP. So the dispensers came free of charge. Some of the cleaning chemicals we can get at a much reduced cost because all of these schools are buying in bulk. And then there's also equipment that we have access to that we would not be able to afford on our own, but all the schools in the consortium going together allow us to purchase an aerator, a top dresser, some soil turf management kinds of equipment, or some bigger pieces, more expensive pieces, are things that we get access to because we're part of SWEEP. The total cost for the district is $275 to be a member of SWEEP. And if Roger were here, he would tell you that it's well worthwhile being a part of it, that the cost savings outnumber costs going into, the $275, we recoup that every year based on what we're purchasing.
So motion to approve sweep 1 and 2.
Second.
Bush Harris. Any comments? Seems like a good deal.
It is very much a good deal.
Any other discussion? Andy?
Bush,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Janetka,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Approval of administrator contracts.
Make it official. Asking the same percentage increase that the teachers and support staff, everybody else got, that we would just move forward with that same percent. The rest, the admin wanted me to ask for a lot more, but I said I couldn't. So I'm just kidding. Just kidding. No, we just make it official that it would be a 3% increase
Plus any stipend?
plus the COVID stipend. Yes.
Any discussion?
Gelding.
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Janetka,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Next is budget amendments.
There is money in the current budget. And we know it's not going to be expensed in that account, but we need it in another location. So we are required, because it's your budget, we are required to get your permission to make that switch. So you see there's in the pupil transportation account, $17,574 that we know we will not be spending in pupil transportation this fiscal year. And we need to transfer it into our contracted legal services, and then a tuition account for students and our administrator in a program that you approved, covering that tuition reimbursement. So the dollar amounts will be the same. So it's money that was in the budget in one location. We just needed to put it in another. So it's not additional dollars. It's just moving those budget dollar amounts to a new location. Why that's kicking off, but thank you.
So that contracted services legal, can you talk a little bit about why that expense was above what we had budgeted?
Typically, we put in a base amount, for questions that might come up at a board meeting. It's, can you get legal advice? The board needs some advice. And we use what used to be Strang, Pattison, Lewis, Lacey. Now it's Reading, Lewis, and Lacey. There's been a little bit of a split in that insurance, or in that legal services. This year, with the number of open records requests, information that there might be, we need you to, so I want all the emails that deal with this topic, and I wanted emails that went between person X, Y, and Z. So I get those emails. I ask Dependable Solution, our tech company, to pull all those emails. Then, do they need to be redacted? That redaction can be challenged in court. You hired me to be a superintendent. I have no law degree. So in order to best protect the school district, I asked that redaction happen somewhere that will be able to defend why that information was redacted. So I've been using Reading, Lewis, and Lacey. So there has been this big increase because of the number of records requests, open records requests for information from the district over the course of this school year.
Okay. And
Go ahead, Nola.
And to date, no action has come as a result of those open records requests. We've just incurred this additional cost.
That is correct.
Okay.
I remember you gave a kind of a round figure, each of those requests, because they have to review it. It's fairly expensive. I mean,
Several $1,000s, yes, depending on how many emails they're going through, depending on how much time it takes them. But there've been, you know, anywhere $5,000, $7,000 for any one of the files that they've been asked to go through and redact.
Is this ongoing? Is this still happening?
I have not received any records requests in recent history, and I'm not asking for any new records requests. But no, this it was an influx this year of individuals making an open records request of the district.
When would you say the last one is that you got?
In this school year?
Yeah.
Probably a month and a half ago, maybe.
Okay. I just like to state my opinion, which is that legally, individuals have a right to open records, but there is really a cost to it, and that's my money that I'm paying in property taxes. And it's the person lives in the Mineral Point School District. It's their own money they're paying in property taxes. And this is all money that could be put to another use, which is educating our children. And I'd like to suggest that they think twice before they do that again. They have the right, to do it, but it's a real shame, especially given with what Joni said, that no action has come of this. To please I'd urge the public to be considerate about the time and resources that they're spending when they make these things. These are kinds of requests. My second, question, Mitch, is if you feel like we've budgeted for this appropriately for next year.
Typically, we have not gone over our legal fees budget. In normal years, we have a budget amount that we put in every year, kind of as a line item holder, and typically we have not gone over that. So I would say, given the hope and prayers that next year is a normal year, I feel comfortable where we are in our legal fees budget for the upcoming fiscal year. Again, this was a unique year in what we had to go through.
Any other clarification questions? Otherwise, I'll take a motion to approve these budget amendments.
I move that we approve the budget amendments as presented.
Second.
Other discussion?
Eisner,
Yes.
Janetka,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Okay, next is approving the Skyward Technology purchase, being that it's over $10,000 per board policy. For a vote on these purchases.
Yes. The Skyward purchase is another one of those budget deficit relief proposals. Every year we purchase a Skyward licensing fee. Skyward does our business side, it does our student side, it's part of our parent communications. And as you can see on the bill, nothing in Skyward comes cheap, but it is a $34,000, $400 purchase. Again, it's something that I can purchase out of this fiscal year, which helps offset the deficit for next year. And I would ask that it is something that we would budget for no matter what, something that we need every year. And I would ask that you approve that purchase.
It communicates with WISE data, WISE Dash, all of our state reporting, with the assistance through Skyward. To communicate all of this information. The Albright's data reporting, when we do that every 2 years.
Sometimes the state pulls out of Skywards. We have to put information into Skyward. Sometimes we have to go to Skyward to send a report to the state. So it is an important piece of school software.
Literally what is used in other districts.
Yes, I mean, everybody has something. Skyward is the state preferred. Infinite Campus is another one. Other districts use some other ones, but Skyward is the state preferred, state supported system.
Cost in line with last year.
I would say yes.
Are staff and district admin happy with this program?
I'm not sure how to answer that. Skyward is not necessarily user-friendly on our end always. Mr. Austin can speak to the scheduling component of Skyward. You know, I mean, it is, if you talk to Skyward, oh, it's simply just click here, go there, this, that. Oh, look at how easy that was. But it's when you don't necessarily do certain components of Skyward every day, it is clunky is the best way to say it, but it is something that everybody is using, and it's something the district has used forever, as far as I know, when it comes
I
to.
used a different program and I would say Skyward is better than the other platform that I have used at a prior district.
You're recommending approval,
Yes.
and I'll move that we approve Skyward contract.
I'll second.
Okay, Harris, Meisner. What was I gonna say? It seems like they're out of Stephen Point, so
They are.
local company.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, they're not from, you know.
When you call their tech support, you get something that somebody usually says, hi, y'all. And I'm thinking, I don't think that's Stevens Point. So, but yes, the headquarters is in Stevens
They
Point.
subcontract.
Yes.
Speaking of, how is their customer support? I mean,
It's good. It is
to
good.
navigate the clunks and stuff. It's okay.
Are they open to feedback?
Sure.
Any other discussion?
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Janetka,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
So the technology piece is a separate piece.
Okay.
This will take me a little while to get there. If you remember a year ago, I talked about a $40,000 Chromebook purchase. And the ECF, Emergency Connectivity Funds, was going to pay at least 75% of that. And when it all came through, ECF funds paid for everything. They paid every cent of that purchase that we made of Chromebooks. This year, the number is much higher. Part of the reason is we have more Chromebooks that do not support the state testing platform. We have iPads that no longer receive any updates, and the iPads are in the special ed, kindergarten, first grade level, and then some in the library. They no longer take updates, so they're no longer going to run programs that our kids are using. And then Chromebooks, we would be using half of the purchase to outfit all second graders, so that there would be 1-to-1 in that second grade. Then there would be a grade level, I should say, group at this middle school, high school level. We're rotating out the last of the MacBook Airs, and we would be replacing them with a Chromebook at a much more reasonable price than the MacBook Air replacement would be. So the total dollar amount is $96,000. I would round it up to $96,800. ECF funds are being applied for. And again, at a minimum of 3/4 of that being reimbursed, the district would only be on the hook for only $13,000. $13,325. I got an updated price quote. So what I shared some numbers in an email last week. I've got some updated numbers from the ECF group that our percentage would be $13,325. So what I'm asking is for that approval of the purchase orders in the amount of $96,000. knowing that it will really boil down to $13,000 at the most that the district would be paying. ECF funds are basically, the 75% is basically a guaranteed amount of money.
So 75% of the 96,800 would leave us with more than 13,000. So could we get greater than 75%?
It is possible. The numbers that I was quoted from the company that helps us file the ECF funds, $83,400 would be coming from the ECF fund. That's a federal program. $13,325 would be coming out of district money. So $96,725. So that might not be a straight 25-75% split, but those are the numbers that were provided by the company that's filling the paperwork out for the ECF funds.
Okay.
A trusted vendor.
A very trusted vendor, yes.
Budgeted for the 25% portion.
Yes.
Will that be 21, 22 or 22, 23?
This would be 22, 23.
Okay. And you mentioned that the ECF may be going away.
Yeah, this next year is the last year. Everything we've been told is this will be the last time we can apply for those funds. So I look at it as an opportunity. If we're going to spend $13,000 to get $96,000 worth of equipment, it seems like a pretty good bang for the buck.
Will all the MacBooks be gone then after that? Or
All the student MacBook Airs will be gone.
Okay, so
Yes.
they'll all be on one platform.
Yes.
You know, some of those are getting a little long in the tooth, as they say.
Yes.
Just in case anyone's wondering, or the 4 people online that are wondering, the ECF was part of the American Rescue Plan Act. It's a $7 billion program to help schools and libraries provide tools and services their communities need for remote learning during the COVID-19 emergency period. So that's where it's coming from.
Make a motion to approve the POs for the technology purchases.
Hey, Bush, Johnston, any other discussion? So just to be clear, we're guaranteed at least 75% reimbursement of this amount.
Correct.
But it could be higher than that.
And is there any reason that the application would not be approved?
No.
So the likelihood of us getting stuck with the entire bill is 0.
I would say yes.
As both of you say it is 0.
Yeah, yes.
Anyone else? Angie?
Bush,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Janetka,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Okay, any other purchases in excess of 10,000, Mitch?
No.
No, okay, so we can move to the Johnson & Johnson block contract.
Yes. Every year, the school district uses Johnson & Block for our audit. They go through all of our bills, all of our budgeting, provide a report for the school board. We have a printer report. There's one online. And we usually enter into an agreement. We're looking at a 3-year agreement with Johnson & Block. School financing is a very complex undertaking, to say the least. As a matter of fact, Marcia and I have been in conversations about some questions with some of the most recent grant reportings and how do we take care of that budgetarily. And Marcia's reached out to the DPI, and the DPI's response is, that's a good question. We'll get back to you. So having Johnson & Block at least be our auditor helps us be prepared, helps us make sure that the district is in good standing when it comes to our school funding. And I am asking for a 3-year renewal of our Johnson & Johnson commitment. The cost for 2022 is $15,000, and we budget for this every year. For 2023, it would be an increase of 525, so it'd be 15,525. And for 2024, it would be a $16,100 expenditure. So, and we can budget for those as we move forward. We're going to have, with Marcia retiring, we're going to have a brand new bookkeeper. I think it's wise that we maintain this connection with Johnson and Block as we transition into this new position.
You've obviously been pleased with them. Marcia's been pleased with them.
Yes, very thorough. Respond to all of our questions. If we have questions throughout the school year, very responsive. And I would certainly recommend that we continue our agreement with Johnson and Block.
So is this an audit? Like they do an audit or?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's super reasonable. It's like half of what we pay at my work for a small organization.
They do longer terms than 3 years.
That was the only ones that gave me at this point in time. It was a 1 year or 3 year, and I'll take the 3. Let me know what the 3 year.
I'm just gonna say, if we're not gonna choose somebody different, they do it in 5 year.
I can reach out to them after this, but they might not want to based on unanticipated costs and things like that too, get going out past 3 years, but.
I move that we accept the renewal of the Johnson and Block contract for 3 years.
Vice Mayor Janetka. Which my sense of why we're not getting other bids for this contract is continuity, quality, affordability, they're local.
Purpose.
It would be
You know,
hard training a new
Yeah.
company with our.
That all makes sense to me. Just want to.
Too many pluses, to say we should look somewhere else.
I think it's just always important that we're showing the community we're trying to get the best value for our services. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay.
Eisner,
Yes.
Janetka,
Yes.
Johnston. Yes. Gelding.
Yes.
Bush.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes. Approval of summer contracts?
We have 2 additional summer contracts that didn't make the timeline at our last board meeting. The first one, Angie Klein, if you'd like to address it from the nurse's office.
Yeah, so we're requesting that Nurse Jane be paid or be contracted for 8 days this summer. So still trying to catch up from not COVID related tasks. There are 34 students that she would like to spend time this summer writing emergency action plans for. Those are typically students with some sort of allergy. She has some immunization registry work to do, and then she would like to be at the 2 registration days so that parents can drop off meds, find meds, get caught up on all of those things. So we're asking for 8 days. And I think Mitch and I had talked about budget-wise encouraging her to do 4 in this fiscal year and 4 in the next fiscal year.
And that money is available. And then the second position is, for lack of a better way of explaining it, our media class supervisor. There's some curriculum work that needs to take place. There is going to be a boot camp, so we potentially would capture some summer school numbers with some of the offerings. Mr. Austin, would you like to?
So one of the things that we're looking at is Justin's schedule next year to make announcements live. So instead of right now, we pre-record them first hour, somebody puts them together second hour, and they go onto YouTube right before third hour, and they play. Next year, we're looking though at doing a homeroom to help us with some different things, and making them a live announcement. So a lot like our football games, basketball games, anything that we've streamed over the last couple of years, these will now be integrated into that. So there'll be pre-recorded sessions that will, like the weather will be a pre-recorded so they can change people in and out. They'll have to record those during their class period, but then actual announcements will be in that whole room area live next year. So the transition of that is where we're asking for the hours because it is going to be a process. And then part of that is bringing some kids in to help train them so that they're ready to go at the start of the next school year. First week or so, we probably won't have live announcements, but after that,
And it's,
trying to improve.
it would be a 10-day contract over the summer. So it'd be 10 additional days in the summer for that position. And that money is available in the budget yet.
And you're saying that the students that are participating in that boot camp would qualify towards our summer school numbers?
Yep.
Which would, let me understand, increase our state aid or?
Correct.
So there would be some offset of that's expense, but I'm.
Yeah, yes, there would be some. Our summer school numbers and the classroom numbers are much larger this year. Mr. Renwick had shared an email with me earlier about how the classroom numbers have grown, the elementary level. Our sports camps are all part of those things as long as the instructor is a licensed teacher. All of those go in. So these would be some more minutes added in. And the more minutes, then the more students it counts for, which then turns around to more reimbursement from the state as because we always have that butts in seat, but then the summer school students give us additional revenues from the state. So we're anticipating a very small amount of money coming from the state this next year. If we can increase our summer school enrollment, in essence, we'll get a third of that because it's a 3-year rolling average. So we would get a third increase next year. So we might
ask Mr. Austin, is this to save time for the kids or just to have a better experience or what's behind the change?
Both. Because of the transition, there is some new learning that students are going to have to do. Like I said, right now they're on, I think they use WeVideo at the moment, but you pull the memory card out, you put it in, and you put them together real quick. For next year, it's actually going to take, you're going to have somebody that's got to be more on top of we need this person in here next, we need this going there, this needs to be here. So probably provide a better experience for those kids in that sense, in the media realm, and those types of things, because look around, there's a lot of kids that ask them what they want to do. They want to be YouTube. They want to create content. Well, this is what they're doing. They're creating content. So part of it is to help them learn those skills ahead of time. We're not spending a month trying to teach the kids, here's how you do this part, here's how you do that. So it is a good learning opportunity to prepare them to go right away.
Yeah.
And with the change of technology, there will be some changing stuff. They'll have to use a program called Wirecast versus WeVideo because they're live. There's 2 people right now that know how to run Wirecast, and I'm one.
So they're going to be gaining new skills, I guess, and that would be maybe more transferable to their careers versus what they're getting right now.
Yes. And doing it during the summer, there's not all the other distractions pulling them in different directions. Oh man, and we're just looking at this today. You're not going from here 45 minutes later. Now you're in second hour. You're here for 4 hours. We can talk about this. We can practice it. We can try it. So more of like a boot camp type of thing.
Sounds like a higher level skill as well.
Yep.
I'm sorry, really quick question. Does Nurse Lindsay feel that 8 days is enough?
She was the one who helped me create the recommended number of hours when we looked at the tasks that she wanted to accomplish this summer.
How are the media boot camp, was that open to students enrolled in a certain class or?
The ones that are in our Media 2 class.
Okay,
So
it
they're
was a
the
small
ones that create.
audience. Or a limited
Small,
audience, I should say.
limited is probably good to be good with. I think there's close to 26 kids signed up for Media 2. So it's exploding.
we might have to hire a media teacher full time. The way it's growing, and the number of places kids that go places, and it's like now they can say, well, I've had this experience, I've created this content, I've done this, and I can show you what I've done. When they go on to that next level, is opening more doors for our kids. So I think this is another great opportunity for our students.
Hearing all this, I would like to make a motion to approve the summer contracts for the district nurse and media class supervisor as presented.
Second.
Connecticut Skelding. Is this, okay, so Angie said half of the nurse stipend is gonna be from this budget, half from
The days,
days,
the
right?
days would be use 4 days out of this fiscal year and 4 days out of next, but the money can be paid out of this fiscal year.
Okay, so this entire contract will be paid out of this fiscal year. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So none of these additional days are going to add towards expenses for next year. Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Yep.
Other discussion? Let's.
Should we get the air conditioner?
It's coming through now.
Just cool it off.
Netka,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Skelding,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Thanks, guys. Okay, next is employee services.
We have two retirements and a resignation. And I would ask for you to approve. And we would be looking to replace all 3 positions. Sandy Weitzel, a longtime aide in the district, has been a wonderful employee, good for kids, good for the district over the years, and will be missed. Reagan Raleigh, hire the best and hope, and Reagan is qualified for it, has been trying to get into a master's program and is qualified for a master's program next year. So we'll be losing Reagan, another wonderful employee that we were only able to have for a year. But again, we want to hire the best available to us. So we would be asking to replace Reagan. And then the surprise move, Alf Jacobson came to me. And all I was hoping was going to tell me one bit of news, give me some news that I didn't want to hear, and that he was wishing to retire. He put in his 2 weeks notice, and we would be needing to replace Alf as a custodian. I don't know if you have any questions. 2 of the positions, the 2 aide positions are in the special ed department. If you have any questions, Angie is here to answer any questions you might have.
Angie, I ask this question every time. Is there any opportunity to consolidate any of these duties or
No, so
reallocate
one of
resources?
them is a one-to-one support.
Okay.
And the other one is a middle school program support, of which we are exploding in numbers next year. So, no, we will not be able to cut back on either of these duties.
Reading the letter presented by Ms. Raleigh was, while we only had her for a year, she will carry our name forward in a very positive manner. So that's always nice to hear.
These positions are all in the budget for next year.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take a motion to approve these retirement resignations and posting of these positions all together or separately if you'd like.
We'll move all together.
Okay. Let's go. Moving all 3. Any other discussion?
We'd just like to say thank you and congratulations to all of them.
Yes, exactly. We're running them out.
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Janetka,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Skelding,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Business services, record statement of activity and bills payable. If there aren't any major clarification questions, I'll take a motion to approve
I got a question.
both together or separately. Yes, sir.
Just on the bills payable, I just had a couple questions because I didn't recognize the name of the vendors. So one was Dependable Solutions.
That's our technology provider. They set up They take care of all of our infrastructure for our technology. So our wireless, our wired, our servers, our support staff, getting new machines set up and ready to go. So they are our technology provider.
Is this like an annual or quarterly or a monthly?
Monthly.
Right. And then,
Some school districts have an IT person on
Sure.
staff. This is kind of a
Yeah.
subcontract IT.
okay. And then with the bus service, is the first student, is that what we pay on a monthly basis, 42,000?
Yeah, it'll vary by month depending on how many trips, how many extracurriculars, if there's field trips or anything. But yes, that was a monthly bill.
Okay. And then does that cover gas for the buses as well, or do we pay separately for that? Okay.
So you might see something for Pot Oil.
Yeah, it's
That would be some of the gas.
It's the second set.
Okay. Okay, that's it. Yep, thanks.
We signed a new contract with First Student just a year or two ago, didn't we?
We're in a 5-year agreement with them. We should be at year 4.
Okay. That flies.
We did it my first year.
So if you recall, we spent a lot of time, right when I came onto the board, talking about paying for services not rendered.
Right, I remember that.
And that was like, well, we're locked in for 5 years and we were on year 2 at that point. So when that comes back around, who knows?
That was lockdown
That was
discussion,
lockdown.
wasn't it?
Yeah, that was not a fun time.
I have a question about the bun tussle. Is that for families?
That is for our Options in Education building out on Highway 39.
Yeah.
That's how they get their internet service.
How is WISCNet different than Vendables?
WISCNet is they provide the internet to the building. So we have fiber coming into the building, and that network is set up through WISCNet. Once it's in the building, bless you, then Dependable Solutions takes care of that.
We've had quite a deal with them.
Yeah, we had a great deal with WISCNet for the last couple of years.
Forgot to bill you?
Yes,
Really?
yes. Several years ago, they ran fiber off of the highway, off the 4-lane into the back of the building, and forgot to bill us for a couple of years.
Yeah, true.
They did not. They said moving forward, they said, we're not going to do that moving forward, though your bill will be this. I'm like, I guess I should pay for that service. Thank you. So I thank WISCNet for their wonderful service.
One note on the gas and the busing. I think it's incredible that we had a surplus in student transportation this year, given the current climate of fuel. There's no intent to change the budget number to a lower amount because we had a surplus there.
Correct.
I see it, we're about 2,000 higher than we were a couple months ago for fuel. So
Yeah, you get through the rest of this school year at $4.29 a gallon for regular.
I'll make a motion to approve the credit card statement and bills payable.
Second. Mr. Nemka, any other comments, discussion?
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Metcalf,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Bush,
yes,
Dunn.
Yes. Okay, next regular meeting, June 13th,
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Okay.
That means we're only
Building
meeting
legacy.
8:30.
Good idea. Yes.
We can.
Adjourn before 9.
Oh, yes.
Great. Well, let's do it now.
I put 8:59 on the whole.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
We made it.
8:59 and 50 seconds.
We can meet prior to the June meeting.
Take credit for that one, Joey. This is a momentous day, especially for a 3-page agenda.
There was a lot there and we spent
I think we gave everything we can. And I'll reach out to the staff that want to come too.
Thank you, anyone that's still
I
on.
meant to actually mention both, to both